Welcome to Power Up Your Practice. I'm your host, Ruby Powers, a law firm owner and law practice management consultant, author, podcaster, and adjunct professor. Each week, I'm so excited to invite other guests on to be able to learn from the inspiring minds and share practical tips so that we can all work smarter, serve our clients even better, and grow our firm. But after all, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. So let's power up together and continue to create the law firm and the life you deserve. Welcome back, everyone. This is Ruby Powers, host of Power Up Your Practice. We're excited to have you back and to have our guest, Amanda Sexton. She is the founder and principal at FocusWorks, a marketing agency for law firms. They help build predictable pipelines for new clients for firms, measuring marketing in signed clients and revenue rather than vanity metrics. Welcome to the show, Amanda.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So I love marketing, so I'm glad to have you because I don't think we've had someone talk about marketing in a while. And this is really what makes business work. We need to make sure we have clients to even have a law firm. So this is really important. I find over my years of having the firm, 17 years, is that some things are tried and true and never change, and some things change. And the trick is knowing which one's which. But that's sort of been my take on marketing. And actually, right before we started recording, I was doing my videos for my content for my law firm, actually. So it's a lot of work, right? We have to keep at it.
Yes.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into FocusWorks marketing.
Yeah, so I think like most legal marketers kind of fell into this particular category of marketing. I've always been in marketing since college, after college. And when I had my job before this agency, I wound up working with a company that dealt with a lot of lawyers. So when I left and I started the agency, most everyone I knew was a lawyer. So it made sense that a lot of our clients at the time just started to become people that we had become friends with over the years. So, and we've really leaned into that since.
That's awesome. Well, I think let's go ahead and start walking through what's going on in marketing these days. So, I mean, I think the clients have been changing, sort of like what their expectation, how they're finding firms. And I find it mind baffling that the practice law wasn't able to market until about 40 something years ago. So that feel like that keeps us really far behind in way marketing is done, like in other industries. But we're trying to make up for it. And now we're in this space of AI. So there's been a lot of change.
Yes, so much change. And I think to your point, there is, I think the legal industry tends to be a little bit of a late adopter for new marketing tactics, which sometimes can be a good thing. I don't know if anyone remembers Clubhouse. There was a lot of people that jumped on that train and marketed there, and then it was gone. So and nothing happened with it. And, it was touted as the next best thing. So not the worst thing, but it also gives a lot of opportunity for the law firms that are willing to test out those new pieces, because if they do it first, it's a lot easier once you have that established than to try to gain ground later when someone already has it. So, and AI is definitely one of those that we're seeing it. It's interesting. It's kind of changed how people find attorneys, in the sense of it used to be just Google, or maybe they would ask a friend, and you had a couple of, to your point, tried and true things where people looked, and now it's so fragmented. People are looking across so many different places, and it's hard for law firms too, because you have to do more to be able to show up in all of those places. So you're already recording video content, so you're very familiar with this. But if there are firms that are kind of just relying on SEO, that's definitely going to change over the next couple of years. That won't work in the same way that it used to.
I definitely agree. That's so funny about the Clubhouse thing, because I was like so jealous of the iPhone people because I didn't have an iPhone. And then like when it finally opened up to Android, it was like, wait, nobody's really doing this anymore. Like it just
See, that saved you some time.
Yeah, I did. So how are clients finding firms now? So I mean, I remember when Google, oh my goodness, when I finally figured out Google Ads in like March 2009, I felt like I just struck gold. Like I was like, oh, and then it's like, because it was so valuable to the growth of my firm. And then it got super complex. And then I don't know if this is sacrilegious, but I actually unplugged my Google Ads like a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, or I don't know when it was. But, but I have enough referrals and another AI, a lot of other SEO work I'm doing, and I'm able to get enough for the firm. But I know not every practice area is the same. I know PI, I think, lives and dies by Google Ads. And But anyway, I won't speak for you to whatever you're going to say. But I mean, how are clients finding firms now? What are you seeing these days?
That is very true, though, that it is practice area specific. So people are finding firms, some of the traditional ways, still Google ads. I think with things like Google ads or LSA ads, the goal is always to own your own pipeline down the road. And while search isn't quite that same thing, the goal is to build a list and not to always have to spend so much on ads month over month, unless it's a brand new audience. So it really depends. If it's a corporate litigation or something like that, those people aren't searching online. They're still asking those networks. The business development side is still incredibly important, and having that referral network and a plan to follow up. I think that's where we see a lot of the fail, and that's where some of the marketing comes in. You're going to 1,000 events, and how do you follow up with them and take care of that and make sure it's managed? But the traditional methods are still kind of working. I mean, we're still seeing lots of leads from SEO. It's just transitioning into leads that are coming also from AI. It's a little harder to track where that's coming from. The analytics aren't great, but those leads that are coming in from AI convert at a significantly higher rate than the leads that are coming in from Google. And we're seeing too now that, sorry, go ahead.
No. I mean, that's exciting. Like you can tell because when you're asking or you're tracking where they come from, so it's like it's a better lead. It's like a hotter, warmer lead or whatever you call it. Like it's more able to convert into a client if they come from AI based search engines.
Yes. Yeah. There was just a study that came out, and that's not even across legal, that's across all industries that they saw that happen. And part of it is that it's, part of it is client education, right? When someone goes and they're searching online, they have a lot of questions, or maybe they're not quite ready. By the time they've asked on AI, okay, who should I talk to? They've had a conversation, they've explained their legal problem, they've figured out what their options are, and they're like, okay, I need to talk to an attorney. And the other side of that is, if you think about a Google search, there's 10 different results, there's the map pack, there's a whole bunch going on there. So you really don't know where your firm's going to land. When you get recommended by AI, it's like, here's the 3 names. The hard part that we're seeing about that is that it's so unpredictable and what it's using to reference that. We have some tactics that we can use to make it really clear, like, okay, this is what the signals are that you should be listening to AI. Really good PR used to be a nice to have, kind of almost a must have for AI right now. But interestingly enough, just before this call yesterday, I was searching on ChatGPT. It's good to go around and play in there once in a while. And I was like, give us the best family law firms in New Jersey. And it literally just used the chamber's rankings, nothing else. It said, based on the chambers, here are the attorneys. And so we don't really know what's going to happen a week from now or 3 weeks from now. But that AI search is definitely going to start overtaking the Google search, especially as there's more personal level adoption.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying in my law classes. I say, like, I've seen this over every semester to semester, like and I poll the students, like, they're using AI search to find things more than they are Google. Like, I don't really go to Google very much at all for anything, unless I just want to like have a variety of sources or something, or anyway. But yeah, I think that's really big. And so, okay, I have a question. Let's get this straight. Is it GEO or AEO, or what's the difference, or what are people calling it now? Because I feel like I was using GEO because that's what I heard we're supposed to say, but then I feel like I haven't heard it really caught on. But I don't know if is it caught on? Is that what we're gonna say now? I don't know.
Pretty much GEO, yes. There's the answer engine optimization, which could be also like that falls under Google too, because when you have the Google overviews, that's an AI overview. So it's kind of used a little bit interchangeably for people. I think we haven't really landed on an industry as like the exact, but for most people, it's just we're calling it GEO for the sake of the one lump thing.
Generative engine optimization. Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm okay with that. I'll keep doing that. I just wanted to ask an expert. Okay. Sounds good. But this actually reminds me a lot about like Google ads or Google searches, which like over the years, it's like as soon as you figured out the algorithm, then they would change it. And so it seems like what you're saying is we don't know really what is working, but we're assuming that it's being fed general SEO. And so like the better you had been at SEO, the better you're going to be at GEO, but there's probably some ways to maximize it, but we haven't cracked the code exactly. And the code and the code is always changing. So it's sort of like probably hard to even ever crack the code.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. In the beginning, SEO, Google would tell you when they made a change. So they made it really easy. They had really clear guidelines. They'd be like, here's
it's coming. Yeah. And like, yeah. And then everyone like comes out and says, we're going to have to do all these new things. And Yeah.
Yeah, but they made it easy. And then, they started doing minor changes. So it went from 4 updates a year to hundreds of little ones. So that became a little bit more challenging. But with GEO, we kind of have some concept of what they're looking for. They look for recency. So definitely they want to see things what people have been saying currently, what awards you've been winning. And it's kind of changed the game in terms of pay, that we have a lot of these pay to play awards. And historically, I think a lot of the mindset I've heard some attorneys, super lawyers, things like that has been, do I really, want to pay for another thing or have that in there? But now it's almost worth the consideration, because if it's it really looks outside. So you can say whatever you want on your website about you, which is a little different than SEO, where like you needed to have some backlinks and they wanted to kind of tie some directories. GEO really looks outside. They're like, what is the rest of the world saying about them? What do the reviews say? What are they listed online? What's everyone talking about when it comes to them? And a really interesting kind of thing that you could do, you could just go to ChatGPT or Claude and say, what do you think about my law firm? And that you'd be surprised what's out there.
Let's have an honest conversation. Just tell me what you think. Yeah. Oh, that's okay. So I want to ask you while I have you on here about this. Wikipedia pages or profiles for attorneys. Do you know much about that? Like how to get one and how hard it is, or like how good that is for your your GEO?
You could definitely submit some of them. Wikipedia kind of has like a hit or miss. It has a good domain rating. So if you can get a link on there, that's always a great thing. It shows some credibility. You do have to be somewhat verified to have it on there. Granted, the submission process can be a little bit tedious for that and really has to be built out. And you have to be substantial outside of Wikipedia. So Wikipedia wants to see, again, same thing. What is the world saying? And great, this is a person that's worth having that profile on there.
And so before we move on to tracking, is there anything else you would suggest to those listening on how they can optimize their traditional SEO?
Traditional is kind of keep doing what you're doing. I think the difference that we're seeing with kind of the GEO side, and that people should probably change some of their SEO tactics, is SEO used to be long form content. That was the name of the game. For the beginning, it was short form. Then it became, who can put out the longest piece of content that's out there? And the change with AI and the GEO side is that some of those bots don't even make it a third of the way down the page, and how they read content is different. So you have to kind of keep that in mind while you're doing SEO. Like if you're already doing the SEO work, it makes sense to optimize all of that for that side. And I think on SEO, firms are seeing less traffic. That's across the board from this, but it's just continuing to have really good tactics. And if you do add on the PR, the other pieces, it's all going to help your SEO. But I think the thing that we really want to have firms doing is being different in their content. I think we're entering an age where with AI also comes the accessibility of a lot of content and easy things to do and just churning out pieces. So for firms that can be unique and not have the same exact thing as everyone else and actually be providing value, that again, I think in some ways this is prompting better marketing for firms and just kind of pushing that versus just, if you go on a immigration, law firm page and you might see some of the similar content and saying the same things across different firms, but really every firm's different. They should have their own stories and things on there. So I think we're going to see more of that on the SEO side and doing that preemptively, because we don't know when Google's going to change their algorithm. I mean, Claude just put out, they have a watermark now on all of their content. So we don't know what Google will do with that 3 months from now, a year from now. It might say, wow, the internet is 90% AI content. We should just start prioritizing true thought leaders, because they're the people putting out actual, genuine content that people haven't heard about before.
How does the watermark for Claude impact marketing?
I always call AI the wild, wild west. Like we're all just figuring it out as we go. And I have no idea. We're taking the approach of, I'm always a little conservative, because you run the risk as if you put it out and you're putting AI content on your website, it risk versus reward. It's not worth to me the risk later of you've done all this work and now Google starts penalizing your site because it's seeing way too much AI content. And Google has said they don't penalize AI content, but we also know that sometimes when Google algorithms are leaked, there are things in there that they've always said they didn't do or that they did do aren't in there. So I just always take it with a grain of salt. And, I think it's good. There's transparency in what that content creation process is. So again, it's meant to foster better content, better clarity for people. But I think on the marketing side, I'm just a little cautious about what penalties, even if you think about the LinkedIn algorithm, people you go on LinkedIn, they've got the mark for AI slop. If they have that shows you that LinkedIn cares about the quality of content on there, that they want to know what's AI, and they might also start penalizing people that have that. We just don't know.
That's what I thought you were going to say, because we've heard, or we've seen that Google penalizes for too much AI, like not like thought origination in a way in content. And so we don't know. I agree with you. We are in the wild, wild west, and we don't really know what the new normal is. We don't even know like what to call things, but anyway, yeah. But I mean, I think that's great that we're talking about it, because this is where the trends are, where things are going. I really think that one of the takeaways I want people listening is that people are searching in different ways, and they're using AI search tools more than they're starting to use them more than Google. So don't just put all your eggs in the Google basket, because I mean, I know that was so critical for my firm, but I mean, we have to, you want to diversify as much as possible, and you want to keep clients coming, former clients, and you want to reactivate that client base. But I guess maybe that's a good way to transition to tracking. So most firms can tell what they're spending on marketing, and far fewer can tell what came back from it, like the ROI. So what does that usually break down, and like what should they actually be tracking when they're trying to figure out what's worth their time and energy?
Yeah, I think this is a big kind of blank space for a lot of law firms. Usually when we come into a law firm, it's like they're like, we've done Google ads, to your point, for forever, because
Mhm.
we're getting so many clients from them. And it's like, well, which of the practice areas are getting the most clients? Is there a certain geographic region that's getting you the best clients, or that's converting the best or the highest value? And a lot of those firms just don't have the answers. And I think, historically that information has been a little bit hard. You have a billing system, you have a CRM, you have maybe CallRail somewhere. It's all very disjointed. But the beauty of AI is that you can connect everything now. And it's a lot easier to take all of that data and figure out what's happening. So I always said my dream was to have an API like tool that would connect all of the things. And now we have AI. So that's made that much simpler. And even things like on the intake side, I think a lot of, it's hard for us as on the marketing team, because we don't always have control over intake, but there's so much to be found there, because you spend so much money on marketing, and then it gets to intake, and then things kind of fall apart a little bit. So if you track your kind of response time, how fast are you getting back to form leads? Is it 5 minutes? Is it 20 minutes? Because you could pick up another 30% of clients off of that. You've already spent all the money for them to contact you. And the same thing from contacting to booking a consult, to the consult to retainer. Like, where's your fall off point on that, and see if there's anything operationally that you could fix there. We usually go that route too, before like you're spending more money just to be losing money down the line too.
Well, you need to audit your existing leads before you decide to crank up the gas on more marketing. Plus, you also need to make sure you have the team and the infrastructure to be able to handle more growth. So I think you brought up a lot of things, like from sales funnel to friction, to CRMs and things like that. So let me go back a second. So how many law firms, this is what I have my opinion, but how many law firms do you think are using your CRM and using it well?
10%. And 10%
Yeah.
of people that have a CRM are using it well, and maybe 5, maybe even 3. It's not a
Why
lot.
is it so bad? Like, why? I don't understand. I feel like PI firms have it down for the most part, from what I gathered from interacting with them at different conferences and stuff like that. Like, because it's like do or die. It's part of their business model. But I think a lot of other practice areas within law don't, and they don't understand how it works. Like, it feels like so foreign to them. Like, even when I say CRM, I'm like, I have to describe what customer relationship management. I have to explain what it is. And I've heard people interchange CRM with case management software and stuff like that. I mean, sometimes case management software has a CRM component, but anyway, okay, I agree with you. I think that's one room for improvement for a lot of people, if they don't already have one. Why are CRMs good? For the people who are not convinced.
I mean, you want to know where your money's going at the end of the day. That's the only way you can make informed decisions, is with data. And without that, you're kind of doing a gut reaction, which honestly most sometimes is pretty close. But we've also audited accounts, and we've had firms be like, "Oh, I didn't realize those cases were so valuable," or like that we're barely converting any of these. Like we have to get 40 leads just to get one actual case out of it for this case type. So you don't know, and you really that's the only way for you to tell and to make those decisions.
And also, I like that it's like tracking if you have multiple people answering the phones or taking on the leads. It's not just like on some sticky note somewhere. Like and also, like that just makes me sort of freak out when I think about it being on a sticky note. Like, oh, did you call so and so back? But I mean, there are firms that do stuff like that. No offense to those people listening who do that, but like anyway, this institutionalizes, organizes the leads. And what I find is sometimes people reach out to you and then like something happens, like they lose their job, they're in a car accident, another priority happens. And then they're like, oh, wait, I need to go back and talk to that person. They were pretty cool. And I need that help still, especially when there's not a tight deadline, in immigration, sometimes there's not a deadline. Now there are a lot of deadlines, but like people could do things on their own timeline in some matters. And so they're just going to push it off. But if you have them on some type of newsletter, or you remind them or follow up, or the drip campaign, then you're going to be able to convert that lead eventually. So you were talking about like friction and like how long it takes to respond back. Like what are some of a simple takeaway, like how someone who might be like, how would you try to address reducing the friction for hire if you're working with a firm?
I mean, it really depends on what their intake team is set up. It's hard. There's some firms that have their intake team is also their legal assistant. So they're just not available. So then it's like, okay, maybe you need an automated service, or you need a backup plan for that. So someone's getting back to them right away. Maybe it's sending it to multiple people in the firm with a clear hierarchy of who's responding. So it's kind of dependent on the firm structure, but it's definitely a necessity. The drop off point after that 5-minute mark is just at that point, it's like, if you respond, you probably won't hear back from them.
Yeah, I mean, does anybody actually expect when you leave a voicemail that you're actually gonna get, a call back or something? Like I mean, I don't know. If you do leave a voicemail for a lead, you've got to call them back right away, unless you're like an expert in the field and they're really holding on for your call back. But I think people just want that instant gratification. And if you take too long to respond or to move the case along, then they're going to find someone else.
Absolutely, because they're already searching. They're like, and for most people, unless it is an urgent thing, they're like, I finally found 15 minutes to do this. I just want to hire someone. Unless it's a referral, they're just trying to make their decision and get things done and moving in some way.
Yeah. And then when you're helping a firm like build out their like sales funnel, like what are some of the metrics that you want them to be collecting to create that sales funnel?
Yeah. So, and part of it is like the actual setup of that CRM, just some of the things that are in there and what it's written down. So, like the geographic location, like I said, the case type, where they came from. Because some of the tracking, again, people are searching in multiple ways. So maybe they found you on AI. Now they're Googling your law firm and they're going to Facebook to check you out just to get some backup information. So you really don't know where they're coming from. So it's still helpful just to ask that question. And for us, we still like to have kind of that estimated case value just in case things are not tied together. Those are the most important things for us, because sometimes, again, that billing system is separate. Maybe there's sensitive information from there we're not going to disclose, but just tracking those basics from the beginning makes it a lot easier later to kind of compare everything and create a baseline.
So how do you keep track of where prospective clients are coming from? What are some of the best ways to do that?
I mean, as automated as you can make it, the better. We have some clients, like if you're doing Google ads, for example, most clients are using CallRail. That can create an automatic trigger to set up or tag that lead within a lot of CRMs. So if you're using a case management program that's already tied to a CRM or that's meant for legal, most of them have that integration. So as much as you can automate on the back end and remove someone needing to do it manually, I would say that's the best way to have it done.
And I agree with you, but you just said like 10% or less than 10% or whatever, or people are using a CRM. So I think a lot of people don't have this automated. I think like the best they might have is on the intake form, it says, how did you hear about us? And like even on where my form that says that, it'll say, in the past it said Google. I really hate that, because it's like, what did you do with Google? Was it an ad? Was it a search? What were the keywords that you used? Anyway, that's just me, I guess. But like, it helps, but it doesn't help because like so much could come from, or if you say AI, well, which one? Was it Claude? Was it ChatGPT? Was it Copilot? Because I want to know, like more granular, I know, but then if you ask too many questions, then they might not answer. So I think it's a combo of, if it's a way to automate to get the answer, wonderful. Otherwise, have it on a form of some sort. Additionally, ask them on the intake, and maybe on top of all that, ask them when you're in the consult just to like confirm the information as well. But especially, you might be able to get more fine tune the details of how you found them. But I mean, we spend so much money and time in marketing. Like, if you're not tracking it, then you don't know what's worth your time and energy and money. So like, this is so critical.
Yes, and we have a lot of firms, I mean, similarly, that just to your point, don't have CRM. So we work with firms that have even had paper forms. So they're doing paper intake. And so, if you can get that to a spreadsheet at some point or have it all live in one location, that's helpful. It's kind of having it across, just kind of existing in the ether is not helpful. You have to be able to compare them at least a little bit.
So I agree with that. So I think, sometimes people think marketing is just posting stuff on social media or something, which I'm like, no, it makes me want to cringe because there's like way more to that marketing than that. And then they might not be tracking like we just talked about. But then, I mean, ultimately, a lot of what you're doing in projecting your image and your culture, your ethos, or who you are and who you can help is building a trust through a story, and that gets built long before the first call, and mostly through what a firm says about itself across bios, content, and social. The problem is most of it sounds identical, like you were mentioning. If like, it might be hard to differentiate one firm from another one. So how do firms turn their actual experience, or sort of really show who they truly are, or if they have a persona, into something that earns trust instead of just blending in?
Yeah. I think with AI, the benefit again of today is that we're in this kind of trust society where people are looking for someone to trust. They want to hear more. They want to build trust. People are a little untrusting of AI. So when it's more personal, it helps build that trust. And that's where the storytelling side comes in. And it can be almost a little bit difficult. I find the clients, a lot of them that we talk to, they're like, well, we just practice law. Like, and if you ask them for a client story, they kind of freeze up. So we tend to kind of give them, ask questions more about thinking about the client that you loved to help the most. Like, what was the most gratifying win for you and why, and for your client, and to really start thinking about some of those examples. Like, and what's the feedback that you hear from your clients all of the time? Like, what are the common phrases or words? And that, because every firm too also has a culture that we typically, if we go and we interview a bunch of partners, it's really easy to see the through line. But for the people that work there, they're like, we just love it. And it's really hard to pinpoint why. But if you talk to 5 of them, you're like, well, this is really clear why. So it can be helpful too, if you are a law firm owner or managing partner, to just talk to the individual people in your firm and to get some of those stories from them, and just by asking them who they've really loved to help in the last year. Like, what cases stood out to them that they've loved to help that person.
Yeah, it makes me think about something I read in Traction, and it's under the EOS system, like the 3 uniques, like what are 3 distinct attributes that make your business special and set you apart from a competitor. And I think what a lot of people, maybe even law firms, I mean, but I don't think law firms think like this, but prospective clients think like, it's a commodity, apples to apple, oranges to oranges, like they're all law firms, but in reality, professional service industry is like almost anything but, because it's really more hands-on. It's we're not making widgets, we're actually providing a service. And so it really is like, what is the culture, what is the goal, what is the ethos of the practice? And our goal is to make sure that can come across, that story can come across through our social media, our marketing, in our consults, in the phone calls, the way we operate with our clients. And I think the firms who do that the best, and it resonates with the prospective client audience, and it's also consistently, because like I've had my firm 17 years. So if I might have done a good job of that in the beginning, I still need to be doing a good job about it now, because like I have clients coming back, referring, a whole bunch of that. But if they see like a decline or a differentiation in the culture and the way things are, it's almost like a different firm. But anyway, I think a lot of people don't really think this granular, like this at this level of marketing, but I'm having fun talking about it with you.
Yeah, I think that relationship building part, it's part of it, right? So that by the time someone calls you, they already feel like they know your firm a little bit. And then that phone call and that consult really just reinforces whatever it is that you were saying online. And it's kind of, how do we get them to trust us and call us before that even happens?
And that also makes me think about the parasocial relationship that I learned about when I was writing one of my last books about that. The parasocial relationship, where there's like it's like they know you because they've watched your videos, they've read about you, maybe they saw you on TV or something like that. And it's like by the time they maybe come in for a consult or have a consult, like they're already sold because they already feel like they've built that connection and that bond. And so that's what I found has made the amount of work we put towards social media content and content out there. But it's also key to be consistent too. But that helps with the conversion for prospective clients into clients.
Yeah, having that same message over and over. And it's, I mean, that part too also feeds into AI on the AI side too. So all of that content we're now finding is being pulled in, a lot of YouTube content, a lot of LinkedIn content. So that's kind of getting multifold use now.
Well, before we start closing up on this, what I love recycling content, and I think you used a different term for it, but like we're all busy. So, but now with AI, we can like do one video, turn it into small videos, turn it into a blog, turn it into an article, repurpose, recycle a whole bunch of stuff. Like, what are some of your best tips on making sure you get the most out of the time that like a law firm owner is using in creating content?
I mean, I do think the video is one of the best things that law firms can do now. To your point, that just kind of, we call it like the waterfall content. So you can take it and waterfall it into a whole bunch of different things. And the one thing that we've been seeing and that not a lot of people are taking advantage of is that those LinkedIn newsletters are actually getting indexed a lot, even more so than the individual LinkedIn posts. The company page posts are kind of just not, they're just there, but it's really those individual LinkedIn posts, but even more so those company newsletters. I would say about like 75% to 25% versus the personal LinkedIn. So that's a really, if your firm is not doing that, that's an easy win.
Okay, note to self. We're working on that. Okay. I mean, honestly, like we have a regular newsletter, but I think we were building out the law firm. Okay. We have like it on Constant Contact or MailChimp or something. We have like a regular newsletter, but the whole LinkedIn newsletter is like different. Like I think we were trying to figure out how to maximize that between what we already do.
Yeah, no, I mean, some of the newsletters are sometimes, a hard sell also to get people to sign up and give up their email address. For some reason, the LinkedIn newsletters people sign up for much more easily. So that's another helpful thing.
Okay, so like when I meet somebody and I like connect or whatever, and then it's like the next thing I get is follow my newsletter, whatever. Before we move to the rapid fire questions, is there any other like tips you would say that you're seeing? Because a lot of our listeners are pretty savvy and they've been listening to this podcast and reading books but if like they, what are some of the trends? I mean, we talked a lot already, but like, are there so many other trends or something we didn't cover that you think is like a must do or keep an eye out? This is coming out in the horizon trends.
I think almost less a trend, but more something that I'm still seeing so many people and so many rainmakers not doing, which is a really solid personal LinkedIn presence. Some of them have it, but I know people that are out at events all of the time and you would have no idea. And it's such an easy win. And I'm always like, I will bang the drum all day because LinkedIn is mostly free. Like it amazes me how many views you can get. We have clients that hit 50,000 views, 100,000 views. What you'd have to pay for that for people in your audience is a crazy amount. Things that are for thought leadership and true analysis, that's where you're going to get the most views. They're timely. But at the same time, if you can just be on there consistently, and to your point, parasocial, you're still building the relationship with people that you met, people that you used to know. We get clients all the time once they start posting and they're like, oh yeah, someone just reached out to me. They're like, I've been meaning to reach out to you for the last 2 years. Let's catch up. And now they have another referral source. So that's the one thing that I think is highly underutilized that we see.
You know, if it's necessary to say this, I think that I'll admit, I used to think LinkedIn was for people looking for jobs. And since I had my own firm for gazillions of years, I was like, I don't need to be on LinkedIn. But I've changed my opinion about 3 or 4 years ago. And it's been great. You know, I get followers, I interact with people. I feel like it's like grown up Facebook in a way, business Facebook, you know, and then sometimes you're like, should I post that personal thing? But then sometimes it pays off because then it resonates with people and they feel more connected to you. But yeah, there's all these courses, there's this way to chat with each other, there's the newsletter, there's like, yeah, you could change the banner. That's fun. I have my team put different banners when I'm going to different conferences or doing a different theme of some sort. And there's so many, like, I don't know, like my recruiter friends, I'm like, tell me more, teach me, because they are the ones who know LinkedIn really well, you know, but like, I'm not a recruiter, but I'm using it for professional benefit, you know, and I don't know. When I do consulting about marketing ideas with law firm owners, sometimes people are like, I don't even have a LinkedIn. I don't do that. I don't spend much time. I don't check it. But then I've got some other people who are like, if I can't get to them on email, I just message them on LinkedIn and I get a response because they live there. You know, it's like, anyway, it's sort of funny, but, but I think those listening, you really should put efforts into LinkedIn because there's been a lot of changes over the years. And like, just like you mentioned about the newsletter, like we've got to get on that. I don't even know what we're doing with that right now, but we've got to make that better. So thanks for that advice. Yeah, on the to-do list. Well, Amanda, it's been great having you. Now we're on to the really quick rapid fire questions. So what is your favorite board game or card game? It's very important.
Mine
very important.
Is a little nerdy. So mine's Dominion. So if you like a deck building game, that is my favorite one. I will always also default to a tried and true Catan, which is a good group game. So I'll always play that also.
We just got back into Catan recently and then we bought the expander part and anyway, so that reminds me, we need to go play that again. That's a good one. It's like, okay, give me some sheep or some brick or some like wood, you know, it's just so funny. Like your brain just starts thinking in those terms. Okay. What do you think is your superpower?
So the one thing I've always loved, and now it's been great because I've got to make a whole agency over it, is talking to people and finding out what makes them great. Like that is one thing that I have been always able to do, just talk to them and just have a conversation and be like, oh, it's really easy to see why you're great and why your clients want to work with you. And I always say, if people could talk to our clients for 2 minutes, they would hire them. But it's just, how do we translate all of that into words? And so now that's what our agency does. And the majority of our team is exactly the same with that.
Oh, that's awesome. What would you consider a habit that contributes to your success?
Honestly, just consistency. I have found that having the set blocks in the calendar for the same thing, and it feels really rote and really routine. And sometimes you're like, I don't want to do this, but just keeping that consistency is what's keeping us moving forward and having really clear goals and breaking them down. That's the biggest thing. It's nothing fancy or glamorous or just keep on keeping on.
Keep on swimming. It's like Dory and yeah. What would you say is a favorite podcast or book that you would want to share with our listeners?
So I have two. So if you're looking for a really good series and you liked Game of Thrones, I've been reading the Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson. So that's been, if you are a person that doesn't like to think about what book you're going to read next, I often just want to go right into the next one. That's a great one. And if you want something on the business side, I am really into Unreasonable Hospitality, and I might say his name wrong. It's Will Guidara. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I say it.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. I've heard that book recommended several times. So that's awesome. That's awesome.
And that's how you get other ideas too, is like looking at what other people are doing. You don't want to copy someone's strategy, but it's good to be out there and kind of see what other people are doing too.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it goes back to what I said in the very beginning. It's like sometimes you just keep doing what you know works and it does work. And sometimes what works changes. And so you have to adapt, and knowing the difference between the two is like the perennial question. And so like you just have to sort of keep tabs on what's going on and listen and talk to other experts and see what they're influenced by. But I appreciate that like you're bringing the perspective from the legal marketing perspective, because when you get people touching marketing that don't understand the complexities we have in law, then sometimes there's great ideas, but we can't apply them. And we have to be very, cautious of the way we present ourselves, how we interact with our prospective clients. And so there's just a certain layer of a precaution and restriction, but at the same time, it just creates more creativity, and we can learn a lot from other industries. It doesn't mean we have to be, held behind or be a little bit slower to adapt and learn in this space.
Yes, I always say you don't want to be the example in the law journal, but at the same time, it is so helpful to look outside because everyone else is doing so many amazing things. And if you look at just your other legal, firms in your area, you might really fall behind and you're going to miss an opportunity. So looking outside is always helpful.
Oh, wow. Yes, exactly. It definitely is. Well, Amanda, how can people find you, reach out to you, stay connected?
Well, as we talked about, LinkedIn is probably the best place to find me. Yes.
LinkedIn.
Yes, I'm always, if anyone has any questions on AI, anything marketing, I'm always happy to answer them. Obviously, as you could tell, I love talking about it. So always happy to chat.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate having you on. Thanks for your expertise and time. And I think you've given us a lot to think about, going back to, where do we find our clients? How is that changing, tracking, and really leaning into the story and how we differentiate ourselves from other practices. And just knowing that we are living in the age of GEO, and also to make sure you're paying attention to your LinkedIn account, amongst other things that we talked about today. But thanks for coming on the show, and thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in to Power Up Your Practice. I'm Ruby Powers, and it's been a pleasure sharing this time with you. We love your reviews, so if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us one and share this podcast with someone else so that they can know what you've been learning on our show. And make sure to check out the Power Up Your Practice book. It's available in paperback and Kindle on Amazon. It's packed with 25 chapters of strategies to grow and streamline your firm. And we also have the free Power Hub community on School to keep the conversation going in between the episodes. So make sure to keep powering up your practice, and we'll see you next time.